it's okay to say that you're good right now. We don't have to do this.
Chuck Liddell, the Iceman, UFC Hall of Famer, light heavyweight champion, one of the most iconic fighters in mixed martial arts history. The man who helped bring the UFC from underground bars into mainstream living rooms. The fighter with the devastating right hand and the mohawk that became synonymous with knockout power. Over his legendary career, Liddell faced killers: Tito Ortiz twice, Wanderlei Silva, Alistair Overeem, Quinton Rampage Jackson, Rashad Evans, Mauricio Shogun Rua, Renato Sobral, Vitor Belfort, Kevin Randleman, Jeremy Horn, a who's who of light heavyweight and middleweight legends. Fighters who would make most men quit before entering the cage. But at 56 years old, when asked who the toughest opponent he ever faced was, Liddell doesn't hesitate, doesn't need time to think. The answer is immediate: Randy Couture. If I had to give it to anyone, I would have to give it to Randy Couture. He was the toughest opponent of my career. Randy is a bad man. This isn't just fighter respect. This is recognition of a rivalry that defined an era. 3 fights, all ending in knockout, all for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship, a trilogy that helped launch the UFC to unprecedented heights, and a competitor who did something nobody else could: beat Chuck Liddell at the peak of his powers. March 2002. Randy Couture is UFC heavyweight champion. He's defending against Josh Barnett at UFC 36. Couture controls most of the fight until Barnett takes his back and delivers unanswered strikes. Referee stops it at 4:35 of round 2. Couture loses his belt. Barnett tests positive for steroids post-fight. Gets stripped. Suspended by the Nevada Athletic Commission. Meanwhile, Chuck Liddell is destroying everyone at light heavyweight on a 9-fight win streak. Only one loss in his career, to submission specialist Jeremy Horn back in 1999. Liddell has 11 victories. He's knocking people out, making it look easy. The UFC is pushing him hard. His knockout power and exciting style make him seem like the fighter who can finally take MMA mainstream. Tito Ortiz holds the light heavyweight championship. Won't fight. Negotiations fail repeatedly. The UFC creates an interim light heavyweight title in June 2003 to pressure Ortiz to return. For UFC 43, they need a special attraction, someone to draw attention. Dana White has an idea. Randy Couture moves down from heavyweight to light heavyweight, faces Chuck Liddell for the interim belt. On paper, this looks like a showcase match for Liddell. Couture is 39 years old, coming off back-to-back TKO losses at heavyweight, making his light heavyweight debut, moving down a weight class after getting finished twice, against a young knockout artist on a 10-fight win streak who is known for being impossibly hard to take down and for knocking out wrestlers. Critics cite Couture's age, his recent losses, his wrestling style against a guy who stuffs takedowns and stands right back up. Liddell is the heavy favorite. Everyone believes he'll easily defeat Couture, that he'll eventually unify the title against Ortiz, that this is just another step in building Chuck Liddell as the face of the UFC. Nobody expects what happens next. UFC 43, when Captain America shocked the world. June 6, 2003. UFC 43 in Las Vegas, Thomas and Mack Center. Main event: Chuck Liddell versus Randy Couture for the UFC Interim Light Heavyweight Championship. Liddell enters confident. He's made a career out of forcing grapplers to work for takedowns. When they finally get one, he stands right back up. Popularized the wall walk strategy. Nobody can hold him down. Nobody can submit him. Combined with his knockout power, he's unstoppable. The fight starts. Couture does something unexpected. Neutralizes Liddell's powerful hooks with straight punches. Doesn't try to brawl with the brawler. Uses precision over power. Then Couture starts taking Liddell down at will. The fighter known for impossible takedown defense? Getting taken down repeatedly. The fighter who always stands right back up? Stuck on the canvas. Couture eventually gains full mount. Ground and pound. Unanswered punches. Referee John McCarthy stops it at 2:39 of round 3. Couture wins by TKO. Becomes interim light heavyweight champion. Earns the nickname Captain America. Becomes the first MMA fighter to win a professional title in another weight class. The MMA world is shocked. This wasn't supposed to happen. The 39-year-old, coming off 2 straight losses, just dominated the unstoppable knockout artist. The showcase match turned into an upset. The heavy underdog just became champion. And Chuck Liddell suffered the first real defeat of his career. Liddell admits it. Couture was the first fighter to truly beat him at his own game. Took away his strengths, made him fight Couture's fight. Did something nobody else could do. Randy is a bad man. I was the first one to knock him out. He fought some of the big names, beat some of the big names. Of course, he beat me too, so I've got to give that to him as well. The building rivalry, from friends to bitter enemies. After UFC 43, things shifted. Liddell and Tito Ortiz's friendship quickly disintegrated. They became bitter rivals. Liddell was angry that Ortiz refused to fight him for the championship. Claimed Tito knew Chuck could beat him. Stories say that when they were training partners, Liddell always got the better of Ortiz. Stuffed takedowns, landed kicks and body shots, made Ortiz look ordinary. Ortiz maintained he simply didn't wish to fight a friend, that they had made a pact not to fight each other. Liddell claimed there was no such pact. The war of words continued for months. Fans demanded Chuck and Tito fight. The fight finally happened April 2nd, 2004 at UFC 47. Billed as the biggest grudge match in mixed martial arts, Liddell defeated Ortiz by knockout in 38 seconds of round 2, dominated him completely. As Mike Goldberg said when the bell rang, "The friendship is over."
Here we go! The friendship is over!
And it was. Liddell proved he was levels above his former training partner. The knockout was devastating. Clean, perfect Iceman performance. Chuck became a celebrity following the victory, appeared in commercials, late-night talk shows, music videos. The UFC had their star. In August 2004, Liddell defeated Vernon White by knockout at 4:05 of round 1 at UFC 49. Proved he was the #1 contender again. At that same UFC 49 event, Randy Couture defeated Vitor Belfort for the light heavyweight title by TKO, Dr. Stoppage, at the end of round 3. This set up what everyone wanted, the rematch, Liddell versus Couture, round 2, for the undisputed championship. The Ultimate Fighter, coaching rivals building tension. Early 2005, the UFC needed to broaden its fan base. They created the Ultimate Fighter reality show. 16 mixed martial arts fighters, 8 light heavyweights, 8 middleweights, invited to participate. They would live together and train in 2 separate teams, coached by Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture. Team Liddell versus Team Couture, the 2 rivals who would face each other at the end of the season for the light heavyweight championship. Living together, training their fighters, building tension, creating drama for television. The season was successful. 2 competitors from Team Liddell won their respective tournaments. Forrest Griffin at light heavyweight, Diego Sanchez at middleweight. But the real story was the finale fight between Forrest Griffin and Stefan Bonar. A war. Back and forth action for 3 rounds, both fighters leaving everything in the cage, an instant classic. Dana White credits that finale fight with saving the UFC. It was their first free fight on television. Had all the elements of MMA, technical striking, wrestling, ground fighting, heart, drama. Couldn't ask for a better fight to showcase the sport. The ratings were massive. Mainstream attention followed. The UFC was officially legitimate, and the season finale set up the biggest match in UFC history at that point. Chuck Liddell versus Randy Couture for the undisputed light heavyweight championship. After coaching opposite teams, after months of tension, after their first fight where Couture shocked the world, the rematch had arrived. UFC 52, The Iceman's Revenge. April 16th, 2005, UFC 52 at MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas. Main event, Chuck Liddell versus Randy Couture 2. Undisputed UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. 14,562 fans in attendance. $2,575,450 gate. The highest attendance and gate of the entire trilogy. The UFC's biggest event to date, Couture is favored. He beat Liddell already. Proved he could neutralize Chuck's power. Critics believe Couture's wrestling and experience give him the edge. That Liddell hasn't shown he can solve the Couture puzzle. That age doesn't matter when technique is superior. The fight begins. Liddell is patient, calculated, not rushing, not wild. He learned from the first fight, studied Couture's patterns, understood what went wrong, made adjustments, worked specifically on defending Couture's takedowns and staying off the cage. Partway through round 1, there's a pause. Couture got poked in the eye. Referee gives him time to recover. Fight resumes. Then it happens. Liddell connects with a left hook. Couture staggers. Instinctively comes forward trying to mount a fence, almost as a defense. But he's wobbling, visibly hurt. Liddell cocks his right arm back. Waits. The signature Chuck Liddell right hand, the punch that made him famous. Couture still wobbling. Can't defend. Liddell unleashes. The right hand comes forward. Connects flush on Couture's temple. Randy crashes to the canvas. 2 follow-up shots on the ground don't matter. Couture is out, knocked unconscious. First knockout loss of his career. At 2:06 of round 1, Chuck Liddell is the new UFC light heavyweight champion. The belt he'd been chasing for years. Finally, his. Liddell describes it as the greatest moment of his career. Well, I was lucky to have a lot of great moments in my career, but I think if you put a gun to my head, it would have to be knocking out Randy. It was straight after the first season of The Ultimate Fighter. Obviously, he had beaten me before, so there was a lot of emotion going into that fight. I was always trying to prove I was the best. I always thought, I'm the best in the world. I felt like I could beat anybody. I got to knock him out in the first round. Clean punch. I couldn't have asked for a better end to the fight. And I finally got to get my hands on the title I'd been after for so long. The Rubber Match, completing the trilogy. February 4th, 2006, UFC 57. Less than a year after UFC 52. Chuck Liddell defending his light heavyweight championship against Randy Couture. The Rubber Match, the trilogy fight. Couture won the first, Liddell won the second. Whoever wins this becomes the definitive champion. By now, Liddell is an established champion. Successfully defended the belt against Jeremy Horn at UFC 54. Dominated with aggressive punches, caused knockdowns in multiple rounds. Won by 4th round TKO when Horn told the referee he couldn't see. Liddell proved the UFC 52 victory wasn't a fluke. UFC 57 starts. Liddell enters confident. He's figured out Couture, knows how to beat him. Proved it at UFC 52. This is about cementing his legacy. About going 2-1 in the trilogy. About proving he's the better fighter. The fight begins. Similar to UFC 52, Liddell is patient, technical, not brawling, using precision, waiting for openings. Couture tries to use his wrestling, tries to take the fight to the ground. But Liddell stuffs the takedowns, stays upright, makes Couture fight on the feet. Round 2. Liddell lands a clean right hand. Couture drops, follows up with ground strikes. Referee steps in. Knockout at 128 of round 2. Liddell wins, completes the trilogy, goes 2-1 against Couture, proves definitively that he's the better fighter, remains light heavyweight champion. The trilogy is complete. 3 fights, all ending in knockout. Combined fight time, 21 minutes and 13 seconds. Less than 4 complete rounds total. Couture outlanded Liddell in total strikes 149-62. But Liddell scored 2 knockdowns, both leading to stoppages, both winning him championships. Why Couture was the toughest. So why does Chuck Liddell, at 56 years old, still say Randy Couture was his toughest opponent? Look at the competition. Liddell faced killers throughout his career. Tito Ortiz twice, knocked him out both times. Wanderlei Silva, the Pride legend who was knocking everyone out. Liddell beat him by decision in a slugfest. Alistair Overeem on a 12-fight winning streak with knockouts and submissions. Liddell knocked him out. Then the losses. Quinton Rampage Jackson knocked Liddell out twice. Rashad Evans starched him cold in round 2. Mauricio Shogun Rua finished him with ground and pound. Keith Jardine beat him by decision. Rich Franklin knocked him out in his final UFC fight. These were brutal losses, career-ending losses. The kinds of knockouts that make fighters retire. But none of them were Randy Couture. Because Couture did something none of the others did. He beat Chuck Liddell when Chuck was supposed to be unbeatable. When Chuck was on a 10-fight win streak. when Chuck was the heavy favorite. When everyone thought this was a showcase match, Couture shocked the world. Then Couture made Liddell work harder than he'd ever worked, made him adjust his entire game, made him study, made him prepare differently. The rematch wasn't easy. The rubber match wasn't automatic. Couture pushed Liddell to be better, to evolve, to prove he deserved to be champion. That's why Couture was the toughest. Not because he won the most fights against Liddell, he went 1-2. Not because he dominated Liddell, the trilogy was competitive, but because Couture was the first to expose Liddell's weaknesses. The first to show Chuck could be beaten. The first to make Chuck question himself. Every fighter who knocked out Liddell after that learned from Couture, saw that Chuck could be taken down, that his wrestling defense wasn't perfect, that if you neutralized his power, you could beat him. Rampage studied those tapes. Rashad studied those tapes. Shogun studied those tapes. Couture gave them the blueprint. The decline, when the blueprint worked. After UFC 57, Liddell successfully defended against Renato Sobral, stopped him in round 1, then defended against Tito Ortiz at UFC 66, defeated him by decision. 2 more successful title defenses. Liddell seemed unstoppable again. The losses to Couture were avenged. The championship was secure. The Iceman was back. Then May 2007, UFC 71. Liddell defending against Quinton Rampage Jackson. Rampage had knocked out Liddell in Pride back in 2003. But that was before Liddell became champion, before The Ultimate Fighter, before the mainstream success. This was supposed to be Liddell's redemption. Round 1, Rampage connects with a left hook. Liddell goes down hard. Follow-up punches. Referee stops it. New champion. Liddell knocked out. Lost his belt. The reign is over. Rampage used Couture's blueprint, took away Liddell's power, made him fight defensively, capitalized on openings. September 2008, UFC 88, Liddell vs. Rashad Evans. Liddell trying to get back to the title, needs a statement win. Instead, Evans knocks him cold at 151 of round 2. Brutal knockout. Liddell face down unconscious. His second straight knockout loss. The decline is real. April 2009, UFC 97. Liddell vs. Mauricio Shogun Rua. Third straight fight, third knockout loss. Shogun finishes him late in round 1 with punches. Technical knockout. Liddell has now lost 3 straight by knockout. The same fighter who was known for an iron chin, getting knocked out repeatedly. June 2010. UFC 115. Liddell vs. Rich Franklin. Liddell's final UFC fight. He's competitive in round 1. Lands a high kick that hurts Franklin's forearm. But late in round 1, Franklin counters with a right hand. Liddell goes down, knocked out. 4th straight knockout loss. Dana White announces after UFC 115 that Liddell won't fight in the UFC again. Should consider retirement. The Iceman's career is over. Final UFC record, 21-8. But those final 4 fights, all knockout losses. All showing that Chuck Liddell couldn't take the damage anymore. That the blueprint Randy Couture created worked too well. The legacy. How Couture defined Liddell. Chuck Liddell retired with the 2nd most knockouts in UFC history behind Anderson Silva. 23 UFC fights. Inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. July 10, 2009. Along with Randy Couture, credited with bringing mixed martial arts into mainstream American sports and entertainment. First UFC fighter on the cover of ESPN, the magazine, in 2007. Wrote a best-selling book, Iceman, My Fighting Life, that spent weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. His rivalry with Randy Couture defined an era. The trilogy took place across 974 days, from June 6, 2003 to February 4, 2006. 3 fights for the undisputed light heavyweight championship, all ending in knockout, playing a significant role in launching the UFC to unprecedented heights, making both Liddell and Couture living legends. Combined, Liddell landed 54 significant strikes in the trilogy. Couture landed 62. Liddell landed 13 significant leg kicks on 15 attempts, an 87% success rate. But those 2 knockdowns? Those defined everything. Both led to stoppages. Both won championships. Both proved Chuck Liddell had the power to finish, anyone. After the trilogy ended, the two fighters went in different directions. Couture went 5-3, defeating Tim Sylvia, Gabriel Gonzaga, Brandon Vera, Mark Coleman, and James Toney. Moved up to heavyweight again, won the heavyweight championship, proved he could compete at the highest level well into his 40s. Liddell went 3-6. Victories over Renato Sobral, Tito Ortiz, and Wanderlei Silva. But losses to Keith Jardine, Quinton Jackson twice, Rashad Evans, Mauricio Rua, and Rich Franklin. The decline was steep. The knockouts were brutal. The end was sad for a legend who had given everything to the sport. In 2018, at age 48, Liddell came out of retirement, fought Tito Ortiz a third time under Golden Boy Promotions. Lost by first-round knockout, finished his professional career 21-9, showed that Father Time is undefeated, that comebacks rarely work, that legends should stay retired. The answer: why Randy Couture remains the toughest. At 56, Chuck Liddell still says Randy Couture was his toughest opponent. Not Rampage Jackson, who knocked him out twice. Not Rashad Evans, who starched him. Not Shogun, who finished his title reign. Randy Couture, the man who went 1-2 against him in their trilogy. Because toughness isn't just about winning, it's about the challenge, the difficulty, the growth required. Randy Couture made Chuck Liddell better, made him evolve as a fighter, made him prove he deserved to be champion, made him work harder than he'd ever worked. That first loss at UFC 43? It humbled Liddell, showed him he wasn't invincible. That being the favorite doesn't guarantee victory. That technique can overcome power. That experience matters. That underestimating opponents is fatal. The rematch at UFC 52? It motivated Liddell, made him study film obsessively, made him train specifically for Couture's style, made him patient, made him technical, made him prove he learned from the first fight. The knockout was satisfying because it was earned through preparation. The rubber match at UFC 57? It cemented Liddell's legacy, proved the UFC 52 victory wasn't lucky, proved he could beat Couture consistently, proved he was the better fighter, completed the trilogy on his terms. Randy Couture was 39 when they first fought. Chuck was 33. Couture was making his light heavyweight debut after 2 straight knockout losses. Chuck was on a 10-fight win streak. Everything favored Liddell. Couture won anyway. That's toughness. That's what makes someone the toughest opponent. Not physical dominance, not knockout power, but the ability to win when you shouldn't, to expose weaknesses, to create doubt. Every fighter after Couture benefited from that blueprint, saw that Chuck could be taken down, that his wrestling wasn't perfect, that neutralizing his power made him beatable. They all studied those Couture fights, used those strategies, and slowly, systematically, ended Chuck Liddell's career. The toughest opponent isn't always the one who beats you most. It's the one who forces you to become better, the one who exposes your weaknesses, the one who makes you question everything. For Chuck Liddell, that was Randy Couture. Rampage Jackson knocked Liddell out twice. Those were bad losses, career-damaging losses. But Rampage didn't make Liddell better. He just exploited weaknesses Couture already exposed. Rashad Evans knocked Liddell out brutally, but he used the same blueprint Couture created. Randy Couture? He changed Chuck Liddell's career. That first loss made Chuck study harder. That's why at 56, Chuck Liddell says Randy Couture was his toughest opponent. Because Couture gave him his toughest challenge, required his best performance, made him earn the championship, made him prove himself repeatedly. And even though Liddell won the trilogy 2-1, the respect remains. Randy is a bad man, Liddell says. And he means it. Because Randy Couture was everything Chuck Liddell needed. A rival who pushed him. An opponent who exposed him. A fighter who made him better. The toughest fighter he ever faced.